Hello, and welcome to another episode of Creating Cultures that Outperform. Last week, we promised to bring you another series, and we're bringing back a series we did quite some time ago with some updated information. It's a series on belonging. What is belonging? Why does it matter? How do you create a sense of belonging? How do you make the sense of belonging deeper? So we'll go through a set of episodes, and I'm here with my amazing co-host, Terry Mays, a certified culture engineer. You may recall me from prior shows. I'm Frank Wander. I'm the CEO and founder of People Productive. And we're excited to have you here today with us. This is a
Yes,
very
glad
important.
you're joining us.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for coming. And this is an important show because we're starting off with what is belonging, which I think is a really good topic because people don't quite understand what it is. But belonging is not an emotion. It's a feeling. And there is a difference between feelings and emotions. And, people talk about things without really understanding them. Like belonging is a result of a collection of a whole bunch of things that happen to you. And if it's not good, you have no sense of belonging. If they're good, you have a sense of belonging. People talk about collaboration like it's one thing. Collaboration is a whole set of things. These are different outcomes. Feelings are outcomes of the and you end up with different feelings as a result of the emotions in your environment. You hear those noises, Tara?
I do.
What was that? I didn't move anything.
I have no idea.
Isn't that strange?
It
What?
is very strange.
There's a ghost in the machine. Oh no. Horrible. But I think this is very important that people realize belonging is not an emotion. It is a feeling. It is an outcome.
Right.
And Tara, I'll punt to you. You can continue on so we delve deeper into this.
Yeah. So I think you hit the nail on the head with, it's that belonging is a feeling.
Mhm.
It's a sensing that you get after a series of interactions. So you're interacting with the people there, you're overhearing conversations, or you're sitting in meetings, you're, having conversations yourself with people. It's the combination of those things. It's all of it that gets you to the point where you start to feel like, I really like it around here, or I really don't like it around here.
Yeah.
There's a sense that, you feel like the people are like you have a lot of things in common. You find that you enjoy having the conversations that you're having. You enjoy working with the people you're working with. There's a lightness to your spirit where you just feel happy, right? So you feel good when you're going to work. You're not dragging your feet and going, oh, I don't want to be there. You're not making excuses to take days off. You're really engaged. And
Yeah.
when you get to that place, you have that sense of belonging. That's when you're most creative, when you feel that sense of belonging in you and you feel like I'm safe in this environment. I can give myself authentically and fully, and I don't have to try to pretend to be somebody else. I can be
Yeah.
all of who I am, and I'm accepted just as I am. There's something that happens to you mentally when you're in a place of safety that causes much more creativity than when your brain is constantly in fight or flight mode.
Mhm.
You don't want to be in that space where you're having to feel like you're having to defend yourself all the time or explain yourself because people don't get you. They don't understand what you're saying. They are taking things out of context or not the way that you intended. All of those are just signals. And over time, you develop this sense that I don't really fit here. I don't really belong here. And so then you start to plan your escape because nobody wants to stay in a place where they're not welcome, where they don't feel like they belong.
And it is this sense. It is a sense of belonging. That's what a feeling is. And that sense begins to form your first day on the job. You don't have a sense of belonging yet, but the things that are going to lead you to either feel you belong or don't belong start on day one. Were you welcome to the place? How did they onboard you? Do you really feel like they care about you on day one? Maybe they invited you to a surprise Zoom with everybody on. They're all cheering and welcoming you. Or you got to your desk. There was no computer. Nothing worked. Nobody came over to say hi. And, those are two completely different experiences that create different sets of emotions and start you down one or two paths. That's why it's just so important to start people off correctly.
Yes, we talked about this, things that you can do that don't cost money to
Yeah,
improve associate engagement and to get people feeling like they belong. This is absolutely one of those things you can do, and it costs absolutely nothing to welcome the person on the first day and make them feel like you're happy they're there, that you appreciate them bringing themselves to the table and all that they have to offer. You appreciate what they have to offer. Making that person feel like they're special and they're welcomed is huge. It's something that you don't like, it literally costs nothing for leadership to take time to go by and say hello, introduce yourself,
yeah.
and welcome the person to the company. It starts things off on such a positive note.
Yeah, it's huge. And we went over Josh Berson's HR 2024 predictions last week. Very important, I think, work in terms of where the world is heading. But he talked about talent hoarding. You're not going to be able to hoard any talent if you can't create a sense of belonging amongst your staff. This is why so many millennials want to leave. They don't have that sense of belonging. There are other reasons people leave. Certainly, top of the list, I'm not appreciated, but
Mhm.
it starts their first day on the job. And this is a very important topic. And Tara, maybe we should go into share the difference between feelings and emotions. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think having the explanations there is pretty clear, and we can talk through it because it's easy to conflate the two. It's easy to say, feelings versus emotions and
Yeah.
emotions and feelings. It's easy to get it mixed up. And I'm not so sure that I even have it all completely figured out. But, there's this sort of chicken and the egg kind of thing when it comes to emotions and feelings. You're trying to figure out which one came first. Was it the
It's not a
emotions or
stable
the
it's
feelings?
not a stable subject area in that there's complete agreement amongst everybody on what are the true set of emotions and what are the true set of feelings. But a gentleman named John Voris created an article way back, difference between feelings and emotions. I'm going to pull up a piece of this that is much better than the website, but he put this together, and you can always go to his site and get that information. So feelings versus emotions. So let's start over on the left, because emotions happen first. They lead to feelings. Emotions tell us what we like and dislike. I think that's an absolute correct way of describing it, whereas feelings tell us how to live. So think about belonging in this sense. I don't feel I should stay here, and you're moving to another company. So it is how you're living your life ultimately, and it's guiding you in different directions along the way.
Yeah.
Um,
Your feelings are absolutely an outflow of the emotions that have been brewing under the surface. Your feelings will lead you. Your feelings will cause you to make decisions. So that's why it's very important that you are aware and you're able to manage yourself appropriately, because you could have had the wrong response. So these emotions you misunderstood, and the emotions, let's say it was disrespect, for example, you felt disrespected, and so you let that emotion drive you to walk away from a situation or a person or a company,
yeah,
but it was really just a misunderstanding. So you have to be careful to validate those emotions that you're feeling, because
100%.
sometimes it's not at all what you think it is. And it takes some real maturity to recognize that just because I'm feeling a certain way, I should not go and respond in a certain way.
Yeah, I think that's a super important point, Tara. You got to be self-aware. Self-awareness is understanding your feelings, your motivations, your desires. That requires self-reflection. That requires thinking. Requires even understanding there's differences between feelings and emotions, so you can start to separate this stuff out and understand what's driving and motivating you and where some of this stuff is coming from. Because if it's coming from your misunderstanding of situations, then you're going to ultimately make decisions that aren't going to be in your best interest. And
Yeah.
that's really what this is all about, is becoming the best you can possibly be. And look at this emotion state. There are good and bad actions, which there are. They generate good or positive bad or negative emotions that come out of you, depending on what happens. And there's a right and a wrong way to be. And feelings here say your emotions matter, which they do, because your brain is adding all this stuff up. It's a calculator, and it's coming to a conclusion and giving you a feeling about a place based on the internal math it did on the number of positive and negative things that are happening. It's like a ledger or a balance sheet, and it's generating these different feelings.
Yeah,
Emotions say the
that's
external
a
world matters.
great analogy. A general ledger
Thank you.
balance sheet.
Thank
That
you.
is absolutely a great analogy because that's what's happening internally, mentally. You're going through, and if you start to get negative in a situation where it's, you feel like you're giving more than you're getting back,
Yep.
or you're
Taken advantage
spending,
of.
yeah, you're spending more time doing things for others than you are getting things done for you, then you start to calculate, is it outweighing, am I out of balance? And at some point, we're all capable of dealing with some sort of deficit in our relationships. But at some point, the deficit is too big and we walk away from that relationship, whether it's with a
Right.
person or a company. But
Yeah.
it's the same thing. You really are running that general ledger in your mind. And you eventually get to a point where, okay, I don't want any more. Like, I can't take any more. I don't want to be here anymore. And you leave the company as a result.
Yeah. And those pluses and minuses create that climate that you're in, right? It's
Mhm.
social chemistry. Are you getting a lot of kind of negative input? Are you getting positive input? And when the chemistry gets negative, it's that balance sheet is showing a lot of negatives. Boom, you're going to get out of there. There's no question about it. So
Yeah.
belonging is something that consciously should be created by the leaders of that organization. They should be thinking about belonging, understanding that people are going to have feelings about the place. They should be cultivating the right feelings and creating the right emotions in the place, which is why this whole notion of culture and how do you drive and build a high performance culture as a leader is such an important topic. It matters because this is how people ultimately decide what they're going to do. Humans are driven by emotions and feelings, and that's
Yes.
the way it is and the way it's going to remain.
And this is one of those things where you cannot fake it. You can't just be an organization or a leader that says all the right things but never does any of the
Yeah.
right things. So that will create a whole different level of frustration in your people. When
Mhm.
you sound like, yes, I support you, I'm there, I want to be there for you, I want to help remove obstacles and roadblocks for you. When you feel like, oh, they're saying all the right things, but then when it's time for somebody to do something, for someone to make a decision, for, any projects to be funded or anything, whatever it is that needs to happen, when nothing is happening, but
Yeah.
you're saying all the right things, it is a whole different level of frustration. It really just gets people in a place where those emotions start building and it
Yeah.
leads them to a feeling of, I no longer want to be here.
That's exactly what happens. And if you're looking at that chart, emotions are your immediate reaction. They keep you safe in the moment. Feelings allow you to be safe in the long term because they help guide you. That's that compass that's sending you in a direction, which is hopefully for a much better life and more success in your life. Because if you don't have a feeling of belonging, you're never going to really succeed there because your best
Yeah.
is going to be put forward. You're not going to be all in, and you got to be all in to really make it.
Yeah.
So this is a super important topic, no question about it. And other things you want to share about what is belonging, Tara, before we move?
I think this is good. I think we really are just kind of scratching the surface. There's
Yeah,
clearly a lot we could say about belonging, and this could go on for a year and we'd still not get through all of it because emotions and feelings are different, and most people don't understand that you have to take time and really start to be self-aware so that you can digest and dissect what's really happening to you. There's some really cool tools out there, emotion wheels, where you can see what are some of the main emotions. I think there's like maybe 6 to 9
yeah,
different primary emotions. And then out of those emotions, you get all of these other feelings that you have that make up that emotion. So spend some time really understanding yourself and what triggers you, what drives you, so that you can become better at being who you are. And then, a lot of times we want to go and fix everybody else around us, but most times the solution is for us to change and not everybody else.
Really is good advice, Tara. And start to think about where your feelings are coming from and what feelings you actually have. What are you experiencing at this moment? What feelings did you experience in the last week? Why do you think you have those? You should think about it so that you come to know yourself much better. But next week, we'll start to talk about the important thing is now that you know what belonging is, how do leaders go about creating a sense of belonging? What happens? And how do you cause somebody to start to put roots down in a company? And then we'll have other episodes that talk about how to deepen the roots in the soil of the organization. So maybe you can successfully hoard some really good talent, because that's really what this is all about. So remember, we're here every Wednesday, 3:00. We've got a broadcast, 3 Eastern, and this is episode 1 of the series on belonging. I hope you've watched the other episodes we did this year. The one on organizational design was absolutely great, I think. We covered a lot of really good points. We reviewed PwC's 27th Annual CEO Survey over 2 episodes. A lot of important takeaways. We reviewed Josh Burson's 2024 HR predictions, most followed guy in HR, definitely. All good shows, lots of good information. So join us for the Belonging series. I hope you could be here next week, 3:00. We'll be back to talk about how to create a sense of belonging as a leader.